We have members who feel very strongly that when you see racism, you confront it directly, straight on, and you look it in its eyes. We have members who say he's not worthy of them sitting in the chamber listening to a president who continues to create his own facts, use hateful rhetoric. Some members have decided that they will boycott, and as a body, we have not taken a position on what we're going to do.
President Trump's alleged ridicule of the black diaspora last week continues to reverberate with its leaders, overseas and here at home. And as the Congressional Black Caucus ponders a group of repudiation of the upcoming State of the Union address, Democratic Florida Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, who verbally sparred with the Trump administration late last year over the president's alleged insensitivity toward a black Gold Star family, joined her CBC colleagues John Lewis and Maxine Waters this week in announcing that she will boycott the address, which she says will be a, quote, full of innuendo, empty promises, and lies. Strong stuff from a strong woman. Joining me now is Florida Congresswoman Frederica Wilson. Congresswoman, you said you're boycotting because it will be full of innuendo and empty promises. I mean, you're not going. Some say no matter who the president is, members of Congress ought to respect them and go. Why are you joining 3 or 4 of your other colleagues in this bold step?
Well, good morning, Reverend Al. It is very disingenuous to me to go. I just have a footprint in our motherland that I started 4 years ago with Bring Back Our Girls. I also have a soldier from my district who was killed in Africa. So that is our motherland. That is a place that I feel so insulted when he called a shithole. And also, I represent so many Haitian Americans. And they're my neighbors, they're my friends, they're my co-workers, they're my students. I love them. And I'm African. So I cannot sit and watch the president and give him that honor. I believe that the State of the Union message is an honor that's afforded the president by the speaker who invites him to deliver the State of the Union. And I don't want to give him that. That's just me personally.
Now, Congresswoman, let me go back to what you said. When you talked about the young women that you stood up for that were victimized by Boko Haram, a group in Africa of terrorists that have affiliation with ISIS. Talked about Sergeant LaDavid Johnson in your district, grew up in your program, that was killed doing military duties for the U.S. in Nigeria. And you stood up for that family. You talked about the insensitivity of the president's call to his widow. And you were threatened. In fact, they had a rally for you. I came down to Florida and stood with the family and all of us trying to stand for you and with you while you were under threat. And I talked to his widow and his family members who were grateful to you for standing up, but who was brokenhearted that their loved one had been killed in Africa. What kind of tone does it set, Congresswoman, when the president calls African nations the S-hole, as you said? What tone does it set for others like LaDavid Johnson who are on military duty and doing military intelligence in Africa? What tone does it set for those that are victimized by groups like Boko Haram? Doesn't it set a climate that is more dangerous for them and less productive for intelligence forces?
You know, Africa, Reverend Al, is the emerging economy. That continent is emerging, and we know that. And we have to depend on Africa for security, for trade. And, you know, when all of the terrorists leave the Middle East, they're going to Africa. So we have to maintain friendship with Africa. In fact, President Trump called Buhari right after he was elected, the president of Nigeria, and pledged his support in tracking Boko Haram and gave them permission to buy weapons. So for him to insult this continent, this entire continent, endangers us as an economy. It endangers our security, and it's wrong. And we have to stand up to him and tell him that you can't just do that. We will not allow you to do that. So I'm not going to listen.
What
to Mr.
message
Trump.
do you and the others that are boycotting the president's State of the Union address, what message do you think it will send to the American public and to the world community that will see those empty seats there when he enters that chamber?
I think it will send a message, and I'm just talking about my seat. And my seat, I want it to send a message that I do not appreciate him disparaging my native land, disparaging a continent that we know our whole national security depends upon, and that has insulted the people of Africa and insulted me because I'm an African, and insulted all of my friends and neighbors who are Haitian American. And I just can't go. I will not go. I will not give him the honor of sitting there listening to him because I don't think he deserves my presence.
So we are very clear. This is not about a partisan decision, because there's some that say, well, no matter what party's in, no matter what policies are in, both sides of the aisle should respect the president. This is about bigotry and racism. This is not about you disagree with his policies. You're saying he insulted people based on who they are and based on their nationality and their origins, which you and I share.
And based on their race. And it is so clear to me, and I just don't feel comfortable going. I will not give him that honor. I don't want to go. I will not go. I thought about it and I've prayed about it because I want to do the right thing for my constituents. And I truly feel that my constituents agree with me that I should not be present for the State of the Union.
Well, I know you as a thoughtful woman and a prayerful woman. Let me ask you this before I let you go. How is the family of Sergeant LaDavid Johnson? I remember when I was there a few weeks ago, she came to the studio and couldn't even come on the show with you. She was suffering, and then I'm sure these statements by the president only rekindled the pain of her husband having died doing military service in Africa.
She's doing good. The baby is due on the 29th of the month.
Wow, she was pregnant when he was killed 5 years ago. Yeah.
Yes, and we just completed the $800,000 scholarship fund that we established through the 5,000 role models for the young children. So she's doing good as best can be expected of a young widow who's trying to get through all of this. And where her husband was killed, the president called it a shithole. That's not right.
I'll have to leave it there. Thank you, Congresswoman Wilson. Up next, taking